I'm going to talk a little bit about creationism as a term, and then I'm going to go into more detail on why I call myself a creationist and why I think that's okay to do. And I don't think anybody should be forced to pretend they're not creationist. Creationism rose up as a movement against Darwinist thinking, chiefly the proposal by Darwinists of the late 19th century that humanity is descended directly from primates. How did this evolution happen? Through a small series of mutations that occurred over billions of years, with each generation producing more and more of a particular mutation based on how well that mutation allowed members of that species to thrive in their habitat. The logic goes that the more of an advantage you get over your biology, over the biological features you possess, the larger a family you can conceivably create, and the more descendants you have, the more likely it is that this new mutant strain of your species is going to become the dominant strain and will gradually shove out all of the other creatures of that species as they fight for food and resources. So this describes natural selection, and as a consequence of it, we now believe in the popular culture that the Earth is billions of years old, and the species that we are seeing today are really the descendants of mutants, of mutants, of mutants, of mutants, stretching all the way back to the beginning of the Earth, the beginning of life on Earth specifically, and that all of this originated going way back to the Big Bang. There was no cause specifically for the Big Bang. There was no act of will that brought the Big Bang into being. And as a result, we exist today as this highly advanced, highly evolved species compared to all the other species that we see on Earth. If you hold an opinion that is contrary to this view on any level, you will be instantly branded a fundamentalist religious person. You will be branded a fundamentalist Christian, a fundamentalist Muslim, a fundamentalist of some stripe, but you will not be labeled a fundamentalist atheist. You will also not be labeled a fundamentalist agnostic. However, if you work in the science fields and you express any view that's sympathetic to a religious text providing basis for understanding our species and its relation to other species on Earth, and the relationship of our Earth to the universe and the origin of things in the universe, you will be branded a fool and dangerous, unscientific person. Perhaps Scientologists would call you a suppressive person, and you will be stripped of your ability to be taken seriously within the scientific community. This could result in you not getting grants anymore from various organizations that like to funnel money out to scientists and other researchers for the performing research in areas that they believe are important or profitable. It means that you will no longer have your articles published in a journal. This is an act of stonewalling people. And in today's world where science is taken to be a kind of idol for many people, even questioning things about evolution and Darwinism is a dog whistle, as they say, that you are not on board enough with the theory of evolution, and therefore any claims you make about biology need to be thoroughly discredited. Interestingly, this doesn't tend to affect people in other fields. For instance, you can express solidarity with creationism, solidarity with the Book of Genesis in fields such as English literature, literature of other languages too, of course, philosophy, theology, of course. Even other sciences like physics are not prone to this kind of scrutiny the same way that biology is. And for this reason, most biologists today claim that they are atheists or that they do not believe in the Book of Genesis as written. But many, many physicists do believe in God and have no problem with the book of Genesis as written. There is one very strong reason why I am a creationist, and that is because there is no serious social penalty for me to do so. I'm not going to be fired because I believe that dinosaur bones, as we see them, are actually leftover material from hybrids that fallen angels and the descendants of fallen angels tried to bring into being. That's kind of a weird claim, isn't it, to make? That's kind of bizarre. Maybe I should be fired for that. But when we look at what's in Scripture, we know that the world was becoming defiled. This is talked about as the sons of men, which means the descendants of angels and men, so fallen angels, and they try to shape earth in a way that they think is better for themselves, primarily, but they also like to believe that they're making life easier for us, for the descendants of Adam and Eve after the fall of humankind. We will benefit because our lives on earth will be more comfy and cozy and pleasant. We'll have technologies that will make our life easier to hold on to, and will also make us more beholden to the world. We will become more addicted to the things of the world, and we will stop looking at the heavenly kingdom where God resides as a place where we could be. And fallen angels would like to keep us happy and content here on earth, doing earthly things, so that we don't have the ability to ascend into heaven. And if they can convince enough of us to stay here, then with their powers as fallen angels and their knowledge, they will be seen as gods and they will rule over us. This is the original idea that these fallen angels had, was that they would become the rulers of this world. Now, with the crucifixion of Christ, that plan was completely torn apart, and with the great flood, that plan was frustrated. At this time, though, way back in the book of Genesis, before the great flood, their plans were a little bit smaller, a little bit less involved, a little bit less grandiose. They just wanted to run us and show God, see, this is where these people belong. These people are nasty, brutal savages. They have no business being in heaven with angels, and we can prove it to you. They start tinkering with things. The book of Jasher is very interesting. It is not part of the Hebrew canon, and it's not part of the Catholic canon, which is a mix of both the books that are in Hebrew originally and also some texts that were written in Greek. In it, at the very beginning, there is a sentence which more fully describes what was going on prior to the flood. There's a very brief recap of creation history in the book of Jasher, which I would invite you to read sometime. It doesn't take much to read it. And it lays out in a kind of Cliff Notes version how creation came to be, and it agrees really closely with the account we get in Genesis, because the account we get in Genesis is actually from a set of oral stories that were passed down by people in the area who, we believe, are the descendants of Adam and Eve. Specific mention is made regarding the animal-human hybrids that were created during the time before the Great Flood. And they were created by the sons of men. They were created by these angel-human hybrids. So the fallen angels come down to earth. They mate with human women. The offspring of those matings are the Nephilim, and they're very much on board with what the fallen angels want to do, which is to dominate humanity, all of the lesser mortals, all of the lesser humans. And to do so, they are going to start messing around with nature, messing around with the genetics of nature. It's a lot to think about. Now, if you're somebody like me that is just really interested in theology and philosophy and wants to share that with you, and share with you what he's uncovered over the years studying these things, then I'm not under any particular threat, because it's given me a lot of peace of mind and given me a lot of a sense of courage for having these opinions. I think a culture that constantly tries to attack others for these sorts of harmless opinions about the origin of the universe is not going in a good direction. You're not going to win people over, even if you are right, if you are constantly using violence and intimidation to prove your point. Because Jesus Christ never used violence or intimidation to prove his point. He smashed the money stalls, the money changing stalls in the temple. That was only because they were doing violence to the house of God. So he had to take action. That was a defensive move. That was not an act of aggression. What defensive move are those who try to strangle creationism engaged in? Are they under assault? Look at the salaries of these people that promote evolution. Look at their speaking engagements. Look at the bookings they can get in large auditoriums and the audiences that will pay money for tickets to see them. Look at all the grant money that flows in from corporations and from other non-government organizations, donations from nonprofits, private citizens, to promote these ideas in schools and elsewhere. I don't see a whole lot of evolutionary theorists being attacked and vilified in the streets in the West having these ideas. In the Middle East, yeah, we can talk about that. But over here in the West, I'm not seeing that. And makes me wonder, why the aggression? Why the need for aggression? Why the need for intolerance from the pro-evolution camp? In fact, you've basically won, because every public school from the East Coast to the West, north to south, in North America, is preaching the theory of evolution. And I consider myself kind of lucky, because I could give a presentation on this topic back in high school and actually say to a classroom full of peers that this is a theory. And this is the dirty little secret about the theory of evolution, is that it is a theory. And it has a lot of basis in reality, specifically when it comes to natural selection. It also has a lot of unanswered questions. And it also has a lot of people in its fan club that will angrily prevent you from speaking about any other competing theory. And that is a very disturbing trend. And I really hope that stops. So that's all I have to say about creationism today. You can lean on a historical record and try to reconcile the book of Genesis with what we know in scientific research. You will find yourself on the receiving end of a lot of aggression. And that is a sad thing. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. I'm Chris Woodward, signing off.